Welcome guys back to another video of Premier League predictions. Today we are doing match day 31 of the Premier League. Match day 30 was very entertaining as we welcome back the league after the pandemic. So let's get straight into this week's. So the first game we will be predicting is Leicester City versus Brighton. Leicester are at home in this game at the King Power Stadium and they are playing Brighton. I think this can be quite an interesting game, especially looking at the team's results. Leicester City, firstly, they did on the Saturday draw 1-1 to Watford in a really good game. That two very late goals with Ben Chilwell scoring an absolute screamer. Brighton, on the other hand, they did beat Arsenal 2-1. Nicola Pepe scoring for Arsenal, Lewis Dunk, and then Neil Maupay scoring for Brighton. That was very good for them. In the Leicester City-Watford game, Ben Chilwell thought he'd scored the winning goal with an absolutely brilliant outside the volley, sort of like half volley thing, a brilliant strike, and then Craig Dawson scoring an overhead kick, quite a scruffy one, but still an overhead kick in 90 plus 3 minutes to earn Watford a point there. Looking at the two places in the league table, Leicester did slip up points and Chelsea and could capitalise on that when they played the next game. But for Leicester, they need to try and keep that third position, try and stay in the Champions League. But a Brighton game, then Arsenal did slip up points, so they probably won't be catching Leicester. And Brighton, looking at where they are with that win against Arsenal, it really helped them. It gave them a really good cushion of 5 points away from the relegation zone. And Brighton's 15th. I don't think Brighton will get relegated, but some of the games they have coming up, especially after this Leicester game, are quite big. So Brighton will have to try and get a point in this game. But Leicester City, I think they've got a lot of quality, and against this Brighton team, Brighton don't do well against these teams. So I think Leicester are going to win this one. I'm going to give Leicester a 1-0 win. The next game is Tottenham Hotspur versus West Ham United. And again, this could be a game that could promise something, but I do think this game is going to be straightforward for one of the teams. So let's get straight into it. Tottenham, they did come back to a 1-1 draw against Manchester United. I really thought Tottenham were the better team in that game, but they got very lucky after Bruno Fernandes did equalise for Manchester United. I'm pretty sure it was a penalty in the 81th minute, but Steven Bergwijn did open for them in the 27th minute. It was because of United's mistake, but I thought Tottenham did dominate the game and they did look the more sharper side. But West Ham, on the other hand, they didn't have the greatest start because they did lose 2-0 to Wolves in at home. And for Wolves, it was Raul Jimenez and Pedro Neto who scored for them. So it was very damning for West Ham because they are in a relegation battle, quite frankly, and they are sitting in 17th, level on points with Bournemouth, who are also in relegation zone. They're in the 18th, but because they have a worse goal differential, they are in the relegation zone. But West Ham, they are in a lot of trouble, and they've spent a lot of money in the transfer window over the last few years. They've got some quality players, and sitting in the relegation zone, it's not going well for West Ham. I don't want to see them get relegated. They've got a really good squad, but they're in a real danger of doing so. But Tottenham, they are sitting in 8th. Arsenal couldn't capitalise after they lost to Brighton. So Tottenham will be looking to try and gain some points and try and get ahead of the likes of Sheffield United. That will be the aim of Tottenham. But in this game, I can't see past Tottenham in this one. I think they are going to win it, and I'm going to give Tottenham a 3-1 win in this one. So the next game is Manchester United versus Sheffield United. This is also quite a big game in the context of the top 4 or top 5 race, shall you say, because Sheffield United, they're not doing quite well this season. They struggled against Aston Villa, only managed to get a draw, a 0-0 draw, and in the game against Newcastle United that they played, they actually lost 3-0. It doesn't look like the Sheffield United side that we all came to love. In that game, in that Newcastle game, Alan Saint-Maximin scored, Matt Ritchie and Joe Linton scored, and John Egan did get sent off for them. And looking at Manchester United's last game, they did drew to Tottenham Hotspur, also in a race for the top 5 with Steven Bergwijn scoring and Bruno Fernandes. So that does leave Manchester United 5th in the table, 46 points. But Sheffield United are only 2 points behind Man United. So if Sheffield United were to win, they were to leapfrog Man United into 5th, which would be very big for Sheffield United. But Sheffield United just haven't been the team they have been. And I do expect Man United to easily clinch this one, because I think Man United do have a lot of quality, and I think they will win this one. So I'm going to give Man United a 2-0 win in this one. The next game is Newcastle United versus Aston Villa. This is quite an interesting game, but I do expect one team just about winning this game. For Newcastle, as I said just earlier, they did beat Sheffield United 3-0 with the scorers being Alan Saint-Maximin, Matt Ritchie and Joe Linton. And for Aston Villa, they actually were 1-0 up coming into half-time with Hove actually getting onto the score sheet on the 43 minute. But they did slip away, Aston Villa, and if they do want to survive relegation, they need to hold on to these and get points against bigger sides because they need to be able to hold on a bit more. And Chelsea did manage to come it back with Christian Pulisic and Olivier Giroud getting on the score sheet for them. Looking at the two teams in the table, Aston Villa sitting still 19th, 1 point away from West Ham on 27 points. And on the other side, Newcastle on 13th position, 38 points, level on with Everton, and 2 points behind Arsenal, 1 point behind Burnley. So that's Newcastle, and they did have a really resounding 3-0 win, as I just said, and I think that will be very motivating for Newcastle. So for that reason, I'm going to give Newcastle... Actually, I'm going to give it a 1-1 draw. The next game in the Premier League is Norwich versus Everton. This is, again, this one I do think is going to be quite straightforward for Everton for the reason that Norwich did get smashed 3-0 at home to Southampton. And I do think Norwich, unfortunately, will be going down from the Premier League. In that game, Danny Ings scored, Stuart Armstrong and Nathan Redmond scored. And the lineup, Newcastle's, they do look like they're missing goals, but Drumic and Pukki aren't getting the job done. But they do have quite a good side, obviously, with Cantwell, Lewis and Buendia and Aaron Godfrey. So they've still got a decent side, and I do think they have to put runs together quickly and try, do something quickly because if they want to have a chance of escaping relegation. But they are sitting in 20th position, 6 points off 27 points, which is basically where everyone's level on. So that's Norwich. Everton, on the other hand, they did have a Merseyside derby draw against Liverpool, so they're sitting in 12th. 38 points, 1 point behind Burnley and 2 points behind Arsenal, same as Newcastle. And I do think Everton are going to win this one just because they've got a better quality side and they're higher up in the league standing. So I'm going to give Everton a 2-1 win. The next game in the Premier League is Wolverhampton Wanderers versus AFC Bournemouth. I think this is going to be quite a straightforward game for Wolves because they did have a very good win against West Ham, as I just said. They did have a 2-0 win against West Ham. And as I said earlier, Raul Jimenez and Pedro Neto scored for them. And right now, as I'm recording, AFC Bournemouth are losing to Crystal Palace 2-0. And I don't see Crystal Palace losing the lead on that one. And in that game so far, the scorers are Luka Milivojevic and Jordan Pierre-Ayew. So I don't see Crystal Palace slipping up there, and that will mean another defeat for Bournemouth. They are looking like they're going to get relegated because Bournemouth at the moment, they're sitting in 18th position, 1 point ahead of Aston Villa, who are in 19th, 11 on points with West Ham, who are above them, and 1 point of Watford, who are in 16th, and Watford did get a point against Leicester. So I don't see Watford going down, but Bournemouth are in a lot of trouble, and if they do want to bounce back, it will have to be in this game against Wolves, but I can't see past Wolves in this one, so I'm going to give them a 2-0 win in this one. Next game is Liverpool versus Crystal Palace. This game may not seem as easy as it is because Liverpool haven't been on form. They look very sluggish against Everton. The game was very boring, and Liverpool just didn't have that spark there that they have they've had in the season. So Liverpool, there's actually quite a good fact here. They've only won one game in their last 5 competitive games, so that will damn Liverpool. But I think, with all this null and void talk going on and maybe cause them a spike, they really need to try and get this title wrapped up because then it will be a huge disaster if they don't. And it'll have to start out at quite a big game because Liverpool have lost here in the last year. They've lost against Crystal Palace, so it's going to be quite a hard game. And hopefully Liverpool do turn up in this one because it will be good for them to get the league wrapped up. But Crystal Palace, looking at their last game, they did win actually. They did beat AFC Bournemouth 2-0 with Pierre-Ayew and Luka Milivojevic getting on the score sheet. So Crystal Palace, they will know they'll have a chance against Liverpool because Liverpool haven't been the best. But I still think Liverpool are going to win this one, and for that reason, I'm going to give Liverpool a 2-0 win. The next game in the Premier League is Burnley versus Watford. This prediction is taking into account, this is before the Manchester City versus Burnley Monday night game. But regardless, I don't think it should affect this game too much, because I think Burnley will be going into the City game thinking they're not really going to get much out of it unless they sit back and somehow, but City eventually do find a way. So I think Burnley are going to lose that one anyway. But looking at their standing in the league position, Burnley, they're comfortably safe and they're 1 point behind Arsenal, so maybe they could leapfrog Arsenal, who could leave Arsenal in 11th. Oh my god, that is bad. But I don't think Burnley are going to get anything out of City. Looking at Watford, in their last game, they did draw 1-1 to Leicester City. Leicester, getting a draw against Leicester, it's quite good because Leicester are in third position. So for Watford to try and survive relegation, because looking at them in the league table, they are in 16th, 28 points, 1 point above West Ham and Bournemouth, who are in 17th, 18th respectively. It'll be important for Watford to try and get a win here. But again, it's against a Burnley side who sit back quite well, but I do expect Watford to win this game. Actually, they've got a really good side, like Ismaila Sarr, Dini. I do expect them to cause a lot of problems, and for that reason, I'm going to give Watford a 1-0 win. This next game, Southampton versus Arsenal, I'm doing a separate video on today so you guys can check that out on my channel. But the score prediction I'm going to give for this game is 2-1 to Southampton. This game, Chelsea versus Manchester City, I am doing a separate video for this, but I do think Chelsea will cause a lot of problems for Manchester City, but I just can't see past City in this game, so I'm going to give them a very marginal 2-1 win. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe and share the content. Leave some feedback in the comment section below. See you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.